Some military families say their private base housing, again, private base housing done by contractors, is full of lead and mold and rats and roaches. That's according to a survey from the nonprofit Military Family Advisory Network. I want to show you some photos. These are from a family in Maryland who participated in that survey. They say a rainstorm caused the flooding, and that exposed lead paint, and the lead paint made them all sick. We've reached out to the housing company Corvius, I should say, and a spokesman tells us providing housing for our armed service members is a privilege, and Corvius is making changes necessary to meet the gold standard level of service both we and our residents expect. Well, the point is, from the families, they haven't gotten gold level. Some military families are testifying about their experiences today at a hearing on Capitol Hill that's ongoing, and Jennifer Griffin's monitoring it for us. She's at the Pentagon. Jen?
Shep, the testimonies we've heard today are heartbreaking in terms of the impact on the health of the families and children of the nation's 1.2 million service members and represents a major readiness issue. These photos are from inside some of the affected homes on MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida, and Laughlin Air Force Base in Texas. 3 of the thousands or so military families who have complained about poor housing conditions testified before the Senate Armed Forces Subcommittee moments ago. They blame birth defects and disease on the slum-like conditions.
I have felt the helplessness of a fellow Marine Corps spouse as she held her new baby and sobbed while we stood under a collapsing, moldy ceiling in her home at Camp Lejeune. I listened in horror as families at Camp Pendleton told of mice eating through pacifiers in their babies' cribs and electrical outlets catching fire due to wiring issues.
Constant sore throats, nosebleeds, brain fog, blurred vision, numbness, fatigue, debilitating headaches. Even the 4-year-olds complain daily of these headaches along with dizziness. Knowing headaches are not normal for a child of that age, I was concerned they may have cancer.
The Military and Family Advisory Network ran an online survey last month that received 16,000 responses from military families across the country, finding that 56% of those surveyed found living conditions in base housing was negative or very negative, with 6 base housing contractors mentioned over and over by respondents to the online survey: Lincoln, Balfour Beatty, Hunt, Corvius, Wynn, and Michaels Military Housing. We've reached out to those contractors. Some of them are testifying right now before the Senate committee. All of them responded and vowed to address the problems, but senators looked shocked as they looked on today and heard these women's testimony, Shep.
Wow. Jennifer, the housing system, tell us how that's set up.
Well, in 1996, conditions on U.S. military bases were so bad that the military privatized 99% of the base housing for active duty troops. Contractors moved in. It seemed like a good deal for the government. The Pentagon issued the following response, quote, "Each military department has processes in place to resolve tenant issues with privatized landlords, starting with contacting the private partner and installation housing office. If that does not resolve the issue, the resident can approach the installation commander and/or the local inspector general to file their complaint." All 3 of the military spouses we heard from in testimony today said the chain of command in the military had failed them. It was only after a Reuters news agency published an expose that they were finally heard.
Major cleaning underway at 1,300 mold-infested dorm rooms within Joint Base San Antonio, and thousands of other dorms are being inspected.
Eyewitness News reporter Jaleesa Irizarry takes us inside Laughlin Air Force Base to see firsthand what's being done to fix the problem.
It's a common sound inside Laughlin's dorms nowadays. Work in progress that officials admit they knew had to be done.
We've always known that there's a problem of infrastructure and mold in Joint Base San Antonio. That's a known. What we didn't know was the extent of the problem.
But thanks to social media, Joint Base San Antonio learned just how bad that mold problem was.
These rooms were actually vacated as a result of our inspections.
And with a quick look ourselves, the issues were obvious. Mold covered the floor underneath a resident's bed.
These facilities are fundamental to the readiness of our military and our nation, and we must do everything we can to eradicate it so we can move forward and not come back to this situation.
And that's what crews have been doing over the last week. JBSA says about 500 people have been moved from their room as crews treat the dorms with a mold solution, replace the flooring, and add fans and dehumidifiers to prevent any future growth.
Exhaust fans, dehumidifiers, ceiling fans, those are things that we're going to do in addition to taking the steps to remediate the mold quickly.
And officials are encouraging residents to continue to come forward as they work to ease the concerns residents were valid to have.
Mold is unacceptable. I need to rebuild the trust, and I need to ensure that we have transparency so we can eradicate this issue.
Jaleesa Rosari, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.
Joint Base San Antonio has created a webpage for those concerned or affected by the mold. We'll have a link up on kens5.com.
Now at 5:30, a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against military housing in Norfolk is back in federal court. A family says mold at the Lincoln Military Housing Complex made them sick.
A judge declared a mistrial in January. Today, the case is back in federal court, and that's where we find 10 on your side's Jason Marks. Jason?
Guys, it was a very long day today at Norfolk Federal Court. It's just one day, which will be many long days to come. This trial is expected to take several weeks, and the jury will have to decide whether to award millions of dollars to a local military family. Now let's show you video of the family as they are walking into court this morning. You're looking at the Federicos, Marine Gunnery Sergeant Joe Federico, his wife Shelly, and their daughter Jaden. That's when they were coming into court. They're asking for $11 million from Lincoln Military Housing. The family moved into the complex in Norfolk back in 2011. They began getting very sick right after that. They say they constantly called maintenance about leaking windows, toilets, and walls. It caused mold, and they say nothing was ever done to fix the problems. Attorneys for the family say maintenance would document the problems, but they would call it water penetration instead of mold. Attorneys told the jury that they would use the word mold. If they did that, it would violate state codes, and that's why they called it water penetration. The jury was told the mold has caused permanent brain damage for Joe Federico. He's lost memory and motor skills, and he will not be able to re-enlist when he's up. His wife has constant headaches, and his daughter severe nosebleeds. The defense says there are two sides to every story, and steps were taken to solve the mold issues. Now, you mentioned in January, just before the two sides were able to seat a jury, they could not come up to a conclusion on seating a jury, and the judge declared a mistrial. Well, this morning, a jury was seated and opening arguments got underway. Tomorrow morning, the first witness, Joe Federico himself, he will take the stand. He's, as we mentioned, asking for $11 million, and I'm told that number could go up from Lincoln Military Housing. Of course, we will keep you posted on this ongoing trial, which could take several weeks. We're live in Norfolk. Jason Marks, 10 on your side.
After almost 4 years of living in Freedom Estates at Shepherd, a local military family says they are having health problems due to poor living conditions, and now they are taking action. Veteran Leah Ham says she is preparing to file a lawsuit for negligence against Balfour Beatty, which manages rental homes for active duty Air Force families assigned to the base. Ham says they have seen a rat infestation there, mold growth, among other things, which she believes has caused ongoing medical issues for her kids, such as rashes, respiratory infections, allergies, and more. Eventually, Ham says Balfour Beatty moved her family into a hotel and then into another home. They offered to fix the house, but she says they denied testing her furniture for mold spores.
But I'm still not pleased that we're in this neighborhood. It is my belief that this neighborhood needs to be demolished.
5 minutes.
Freedom Estates is one of the 3 distinct neighborhoods at Shepherd. It's operated by Balfour Beatty, which is one of the largest residential real estate companies in the U.S.